Let's start with our opening prayers and the prayer shlokas for the two texts. Hari Om. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Dayakaram Dayakaram Dantam Dharma Pravartakam Pranamami Dayanandam Madacharya Param. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. The prayer verses. Vasudevendra Yogendram Natva Jnanapradam Gurum Mumukshunam Hitarthaya Tattvabodho Sarva Vedānta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satgurum Pranatosmyaham. So we had left, last time we had met, we had left in the dream state. So we had talked about the dream state and we had seen what the Tattvabodha said about the dream state, that ātmā, in identifying with the dream state, is called tejasa. Ātmā appears in the form of vrittis. So tejo maya antakarana vrittihi. All the dream state is lit up by your own thoughts. Actually, you're the material for your thoughts. You're also the intelligent cause for the dream. You are the material cause for the dream, because all your vasanas and all that's been registered, we saw in the waking state, goes to form your dream state. So, what is the idea of all this prakriyas, methodologies? We have to come back to why we're doing all of this. It is to understand that Atma is free from the three states of experience. Atma is free from the three shariras. We saw that also, a different methodology of revealing Atma. All of these are methods of revealing the one truth also. So the three states are not for Atma, because Atma is non-changing. It doesn't change at all. It lights up the three states. We'll see a couple more verses in Vivekacūḍāmaṇi. That's why it's nice to complement Tattvabodha understanding with this text, because Adi Shankaracharya goes into more depth to explain. So we had left on verse 99 of Vivekacūḍāmaṇi. You can make a note of the numbers and go back and see the verse. But he says in this verse, what does he say? He says, kartrādibhāvaṁ pratipadya rājate yatra svayaṁ bhāti hyayaṁ parātmā dhīmātra kopadirashesha sakshi na lipyate tatkrita karmaleshaihi yasmādasangastata eva karmabhihi na lipyate kinchidupadina kritaihi. What does that mean? It means, he says, basic meaning of the verse is that the supreme, in this condition, what happens? The self shines in its glory. We saw that it is the witness of everything. The intellect is what is projecting the dream. The mind projects the dream, but the self is the witness, sakshi. It is the sakshi of the mind. It is the witness of the mind, and it is untouched, we saw, by the activities of the mind. And even in the dream state, that is, it is active in dream. The mind is active, but it is entirely uninvolved, it is untainted, unattached by all that is happening in the dream state. So the dream is a projection, okay? And this is important to understand, because the dream state is often taken as an example to show the waking state is very similar, okay? To understand that the waking state is also a as though state we live in. It is a dream. It is a long drawn out dream. And we wake up to it when we leave this physical body. We wake up to it, or we can wake up to it while we are living in the physical body. With ātmā, self-knowledge is known as waking up to this waking state reality. Self-knowledge means you mityafy. You see this as a dependent reality. The whole waking state also, all the problems, all the identifications, all the situations I find difficult to face, the challenges, all of that is seen as just a dream. So when you wake up in the waking state, that is called through knowledge. And you still continue to play the role in the dream. You're not affected by the dream. Right now, we're affected by the dream of the waking state. This waking state dream we are affected by. We go through the ups and downs that the waking state ego individual goes through. We go through all the ups and downs of that individuality. So here he says that ātmā is untouched by everything. In verse 170, he also elaborates a bit further. He says, स्वप्नेर्तशून्ये सृजति स्वशक्त्या स्वप्नेर्तशून्ये सृजति स्वशक्त्या भोक्त्रादिविश्वं मन एव सर्वं तथैव जागृत्यपि नो विशेषः तत्सर्वमेतन्मनसो विजृम्भणम्. So he says here that in the dream state, even though there is no contact with the external world, the mind only projects this universe and the enjoyer of the universe, okay? The universe, the entire dream universe, the mind project. And here he says, in this verse, he says, the waking state is no different. Waking state is just the same way. Tathaiva jagratyapi no visheshaha. There's no difference to waking state, because all of this world that we see, the variety, so many differences we see, the multiplicity, so many things we see, the individualities is a projection of our own mind. Vijrimbhanam. He says yet that sarvametan manaso vidrimbanam. It is only a projection of my own mind. We can see this many times as well. Situations that are given, situations that I have to deal with, I have not created there, because that we call Ishvara Shrishti. But how come I am only subject to certain situations? Other people go through other situations. Why am I put in certain place at certain time with certain people? Why are other people put with other people at other places at other times? What is this order that is unfolding in my life, bringing to existence all this experiences that I have to go through? There is an order to it. I think there is choice, right? But who is the one that brings the thought in my mind? Suppose I have a thought suddenly, oh, I have to go to Rishikesh, I have to go to India now. Who is that brings the thought into the mind? And who is that takes action to manifest the thought? Because we don't manifest all our thoughts, right? Thoughts arise, but we're not able to manifest, for one thing, all the thoughts that arise. And some of the thoughts that come in the mind, we don't want to manifest either. But what is it? Who is it that makes us have these thoughts in the first place? And what makes me experience this Jagat? So this is what he is saying here. In the dream state, I project this whole world according to certain vasanas I carry with me from the waking state. In the waking state, it is the same thing. Because of certain vasanas, likes and dislikes, I have cultivated or I am born with. So I'm born with certain likes and dislikes. I also add on to that, I cultivate, that goes to form my habits. So I am tending towards certain things in my life, right? I have certain habits. Suppose I cultivate a taste for alcohol, then I want to always go out, go to the pub and drink, right? I have cultivated that taste, or I may be born with the taste. Suppose I cultivate a taste more for satsanga, for spiritual life, then what is my inclination? I would rather go for satsangas and hear people talking about ātmā, hear people talking about Ishvara, about Bhagavan. I'd rather spend my time like that. But my whole life experience is based on my thoughts. My thoughts translate into actions. In the dream, it's also like that. The thoughts are projected in the dream world, and the dream world, their activity happens. But the only difference between dream and waking is what? In the waking, you have free will. In the waking, you have as though free will. You can choose to do the action. In the dream, it is just a happening, right? So this is the difference here. But what he says here, that the dream state and the waking state are just the same. The experiences are born in time, they last in time, they fade in time. Waking state is also like that. So here, the waking state becomes also seen as mithya. It is a dependent reality. It is not the truth ultimate. You are the witness of the waking state. That is what he's trying to point to here. So the next state that we go into, we have seen the dream state now. So only when the objects are registered in the mind, we have to understand that is called waking state. Only when the objects are registered in the mind, the experience of external is registered, we call that waking state. Here in the second state, the objects may be there, but they are mind created, not based on your free will. We call that dream state. So when objects are there externally, but I'm oblivious because I've gone into sleep and then I'm dreaming, there are mind created objects, mind created situations, and there is no free will involved. That we call dream state. And the third state that we have all experience is that objects can be there, but the sense powers are dormant. Okay, in the dream state, they are active in a different subtle way, right? In the waking state, they're active in a gross way, in a very physical way. But in the deep sleep state, the sense powers and sense organs are totally dormant. That's why it's called deep sleep. So he asks here, ataḥ suṣuptyavasthā kā ahaṁ kimapi na jānāmi sukhena mayā nidrā'nubhūyata iti suṣuptyavasthā kāraṇaśarīrābhimānī ātmā prājña ityucyate. What is the deep sleep state? So first of all, he says this ignorance is bliss. It is a state of ignorance because ahaṁ kimapi na jānāmi. I don't know anything in deep sleep, right? Nobody can ask you. Suppose somebody asks you, what, when you wake up, what did you know? You'll say, I don't know anything. I didn't know anything. That's why it's called deep sleep. If you knew something when you wake up, it will be dream state, right? When you remember, sometimes we can recall our dreams, but do we recall our deep sleep state? In a subtle way, we actually recall the deep sleep state. We'll see that, but it is considered the state of total ignorance. That's why the Tattvabodha here equates the deep sleep state to the kāraṇaśarīrābhimānī. It is equated to your causal form. So in deep sleep, all individuality, as we've seen, is resolved. You are in seed form. Everything, all your thoughts are in seed form. All your sense powers are in seed form. All your powers of activity is seed form. You are in seed form, and the physical body is nicely snoring away in the bedroom, and you don't know anything. You're totally ignorant. So that's why there's a very nice saying in English: ignorance is bliss. You're in bliss sheath in the deep sleep state. Why are you in bliss? Because you have no problems. It's only when individuality is there you have problems, right? All the problems are associated with whom? I, the individual. In deep sleep, where's the problem? No problem, no attachment. You're not worrying about your children in deep sleep. You're not worrying about your spouse in deep sleep. Oh, my son didn't pass the 12 plus. He's not going to go to the grammar school. All of these problems are all subsided because what? You are totally unconnected to individual problems and the individual's connections. So I and mine is also dormant. So in fact, sleep is a great blessing. Why? It's a relief. It's like a tranquilizer from waking state. So we need sleep tranquilizing us from waking state, but we cannot keep escaping in deep sleep state. In fact, that is what people who are in depressed or they can't face. Depression is a reaction to waking state, actually. Many times, depression is created not just about by chemical imbalance in the brain, it is also your own reaction to the waking state. When you can't face waking state challenges, waking state problems, then you become sorrowful. And that many people who are, given to depression, what happens to them? They sleep, right? Sleep is an escape. So sleep becomes an escape. So it's not a healthy escape because we have to learn to feel free while we're in the waking state as well. Why? If you know the waking state is equally unreal like dream, how can it bother you? So at least even with this knowledge of Tattvabodha and Vivekacūḍāmaṇiḥ, you start seeing waking state is just like a dream. How can it ever bother you? You are just projecting a self here, like in the dream, you project an egoic sense of identity. In the waking state also, you're projecting a egoic sense of identity. So the deep sleep state is where you are totally in ananda. You are pure awareness in deep sleep. But the problem is you don't know it. You love the deep sleep because you're totally ananda. You're in limitlessness. You're in a formless state in deep sleep. That's why you don't like coming out of deep sleep, because you are in your true nature in deep sleep, but without knowing. You don't know that. You know it only because when you come out of it, you want to go back in. You don't want to come out. It takes a long time to come out of that state. Waking state, I'm very happy to escape waking state to going to deep sleep state, right? Why am I not happy to come out the other way? This is why. Because in deep sleep, I am Ananda. And in deep sleep, you know the experience of nothing. How do you know that? Because when you wake up, people may ask. And this is what he says here as well. So, first of all, you say, I don't know anything, but there is a ego in subtle form. There is some thought there, a very subtle thought. We call it a very subtle form of thought, because when you wake up, he says in this Tattvabodha, mayā nidra sukhena dukhena anubhūyate. What does that mean? Sleep was happily or unhappily experienced by me. So it can be happily experienced or unhappily. What does that mean? So, suppose I ask you, did you sleep well? No, I had such a terrible sleep. I didn't sleep well at all, you could say. Or you could say, oh, I slept so well. I had such a good sleep. When you say these things, do you ever think what we're saying? What we're actually saying is like, I'm entering, it's really interesting, right? When you say, I slept well, I didn't sleep well, you know your state of sleep, right? You are aware that you slept well. You are aware if you don't sleep well as well. So it is just like entering when we enter a dark room, suppose all the lights are off in the room, you enter a dark room and somebody from outside says, what do you see? And what do you respond? I don't see anything. You say, I don't see anything. Why? Because the light is not on. So when you say, I don't see anything, what are you really saying? When you enter the dark room, you're seeing, your eyes are open, but you say, I don't see anything. You're saying, I see the absence of everything. What you're actually saying is, I see the absence of everything. I don't see things. I see the absence. But your eyes are open. You're aware. You're not seeing, right? In the same way, when you enter the deep sleep state, and when you wake up and people ask you, what did you experience? I didn't experience anything. How do you know? Because you were very much there. You have to be there to register the experience of a state, right? So when you say, I slept well, you were there to register happy sleep. You were lighting up the happy sleep state, because when you wake up, you can say, I slept very well. Similarly, you were very much there when you did not sleep well, meaning disturbed sleep, waking, sleeping, like sometimes we do have disturbed, but you were there saying, I didn't sleep very well at all, which means you were there lighting up that unhappy state of sleep as well. So this is very interesting. Eyes open, like in a dark room, your eyes are open, you don't see anything. Deep sleep is just like that. Atma sometimes is called alupta drik, which means the one who has the eyes always open. You're, as Atma, your eyes always open, no winking, no blinking, nothing. You are open and you witness your deep sleep state. And deep sleep state is where duality does not exist. That's why you love it. There is no such thing as duality there. There is only one mass of consciousness, meaning only one consciousness, no changes in that consciousness, no parts to that consciousness. There is no differences in that consciousness. You remain in undifferentiated condition in sleep. There is nothing that differentiates you from anything else in deep sleep. That's why you love deep sleep state. You are the Sakshi, pure Sakshi in deep sleep state, and you don't play any roles in deep sleep state. You have no pressure of roles. You have no pressure of individuality in deep sleep. And in deep sleep, you are called, see, Atma associated with deep sleep state is called prājña. Prājña is actually, it can mean two things. The one who knows very well, or even the one who doesn't know much at all. It's strange. The one word can mean prakarshena agniyaha, the one doesn't know anything, or prakarshena jnaha, the one who knows everything as well. So this is the meaning of prajña. You are called prajña because there is no sense of limitation in deep sleep. It is a very beautiful state. So here he says in verse 171, the Shankaracharya goes further to explain. He says, SUSHUPTI kale manasi praline naivaasti kinchit sakala prasiddhehi ato manah kalpita eva pumsaha samsara etasya na vastutosti. He says here, in the deep sleep state, the mind is reduced to causal form. The mind is a bundle of thoughts. The bundle of thoughts are reduced to causal form. So there is no thought there in deep sleep. And this is the experience, he says, universal experience of everybody. Is there anyone in any country, in any part of the world who never sleeps? well, we'd like to meet that person. That's a phenomenon. If there's somebody who never sleeps at all, it's a phenomenon. Here, Shankaracharya says it is every universal human experience, this deep sleep state, when you enter into the causal form and you cannot perceive anything externally. So the world, external world, is as good as non-existent for you in deep sleep. Actually, there is no attachment in deep sleep. There is no spouse, there are no children, there's no friends, there's no relations, there's no wars, there's no weddings, nothing at all in deep sleep. And he says here, ato manak kalpita eva pumsaha samsara etasya na vastutosti. This relative world relative world is the one that we have to deal with. This relative world, which is always shifting, always dynamically moving, changing, it is called samsara. So when I come out of deep sleep, I come back into samsara. I need not, the whole idea is with inquiry, I need not come back into samsara. I can come back very happily if I know I'm playing a role, but generally we come back into samsara. And he says here, in fact, it is not that real. Again, he talks about it. It is not as real as you take it to be. It is the projection, creation of the mind. It is your own mental creation. And you are, back into the identification with the sukshma sharira, with the subtle body, and also the gross body. So here, this deep sleep state is when you're in kāraṇaśarīrā. He brings it up again here. And the deep sleep state is what we really love, because we are with ourselves, we are our true nature. Then he says in the verse in the Vivekacūḍāmaṇiḥ, just to summarize all these states of experience, to summarize what is it that goes through the states of experience, he adds a verse. This is in 2:17 of Vivekacūḍāmaṇiḥ. I have tried to draw from the whole text. Vivekacūḍāmaṇiḥ is a very big text, but if you see these connections, it's very beautiful to understand. He talks about the what actually goes through the states of experience, right? If Atma is untouched by the states of experience, if it witnesses the states of experience, then what is it that is going through these experiences of waking, dream, and deep sleep? So he says here, Jagrat Swapna Shushuptishu Sputataram Yosau Samudrambhate प्रत्यग्रूपतया सदाहमहम् इत्यन्तःस्फुरन्नैदिकधा इत्यन्तःस्फुरन्नैकधा नानाकारविकारभागिन इमान् पश्यन्नहन्धीमुखान् नित्यानन्दचिदात्मना स्फुरति तम् Vidhi swametam hridi. Same, very similar to Dakshinamurti Stotram. I'm using the same tune here. But what does he say here? He says, that which clearly manifests in the waking, the dream, and the deep sleep state, what does that manifest? He says, that which shines through all the states is that ahaṁ, that I am, that you, that ātmā, that shines, the sakshi. And he says here, this I shines through all the states. It is the witness of your egoic I. So that this real I, the self that you really are, is actually the witness of your egoic I. It witnesses the ahankara, witness of your projected self. This is the beauty of it once you realize, because right now the identification was the projected I with the false I. And once you realize this real I is the one that gives light to that false I, then you are free from the false I, actually. So liberation I always say, when we say moksha, is not I am free, I am discovering freedom, I am free. The better way to look at it is to say that the Atma is free from the I. Liberation is when Atma is free from the I. So when Atma gets free from I, you're a moksha, you're a jivan mukta. So anyway, this I, he says here, witnesses the ego, it witnesses the mind, the thoughts of the mind, it is the witness of your thinking capacity. And all these modifications, the states of mind, it also sees, this I also sees the other three states of experience. And this I, he says, is Nityananda. It is eternally limitless, timeless limitlessness, Chidatma, in the form of, it reveals itself in the form of consciousness. It is knowledge, limitlessness, and it is existence, a pure knowledge, limitlessness is the self that reveals itself. And he says here, Vidhi swametam hridi. Where is this I? It is in your heart. It is within your own heart as your own self. When he says it's in your heart as yourself, he means it is the source of the mind. There is no real location actually for Atma. It is all pervasive. It is as though in the heart, heart means you discover it as the source of your intellect, source of your mind as well. So it reveals itself through all the states. It is self-revealing, self-evident self, Atma, and that Atma you are. You are that Ananda, you are existence. Nityananda, eternally you have always been the existence. You are all pure knowledge, knowledge Chidatma that lights up all the vrittis, lights up the egoic self. And this is, he says, it finally finishes off saying that this is what it shines through all the states. He this actually is not a summary verse for the three states. He actually reveals what is unchanging in the three states in this verse. So all the changes that you see in the waking, the dream, all, and the deep sleep, also the witness, this is the Nityananda Chidatma. In 104, verse 104 of Vivekacūḍāmaṇiḥ, this is the summary verse for the three states. Then the question will come, what is it that goes through the experience of the three states? If Atma doesn't get touched by the three states or any changes, what goes through the experience? He says, ahaṁ vigneyaha karta bhokta bhimanyayam satvadi guna yogena chavastatrayam ashnute. Know that it is the ego, ahankara. When it identifies with the body, with the doership and experiencership. See, once you're identified with the physical body, then you become aham karta. Ahankara means aham karta. I am the doer. Aham bhokta. I am the experiencer. So when it identifies, it is the ego identifying with the doership, experiencership, and also he says here, Sattvadi Guna Yogena, that ahankara is subject to all the gunas, the changes of sattva. So when it is in a sattvic state, ahankara feels what? Content, feels peaceful. We love to be in sattvic state. We have peace of mind in sattva guna. But unfortunately, we cannot control that, right? How can you maintain sattva guna all the time? Because you're actually bombarded by the other gunas as well. Living in the waking state means the ahankara has to go through yogena, he says here, is connected with all the three gunas. So when rajas takes over, ahankara becomes highly active. It cannot sit still. Ahankara will See, suddenly you can notice your states of mind. It's very interesting. In the waking state, sometimes we will be very calm, we'll be very quiet, especially early morning when, if we're meditating, we're doing some japa, we're doing chanting. Generally, mind can be very still, silent. Meditation and mindfulness can increase sattva guna. That is why these practices are important to bring in to our spiritual path, spiritual journey. And karma yoga also, while we're in activities, that can also increase sattva guna and give peace of mind. So the ahankara can be very peaceful in some times of the day. But unfortunately, I have to even say, due to our diet, due to all this Wi-Fi, everything going through can you imagine how many connections are going through our sukshma sharira as well? All these Wi-Fi, 5G, 4G, 3, how many Gs are going through us? So many influences we have through external world, and so much of impurities we're taking in. We're taking in impurities with this social media, with too much television, too much exposure. You can see anything, anytime, anywhere. It's sometimes I feel too much, because ahara, food, is not just through the mouth. Food is through your senses. And I feel these days we are bombarded by all ways. Can you imagine all the things bombarding us? So we're bombarded by all this Wi-Fi. When I switch on the Wi-Fi on my phone, especially in a public place, can you see how many connections are there? Everybody's phone. You should see that the list is like hundreds of, and all of this is going through your physical body. Can you imagine? All of this is going through everyone's physical form as well, and affecting our subtle form, affecting everything. So it is very, something we have to be aware of as well. And this can also agitate the thoughts of the mind, right? Because a subtle body is agitated by your food. First of all, food, subtle part of food goes to form your thinking. So food intake becomes another thing that can agitate your thinking. Then all these external sources of disturbance can also agitate thinking. So maintaining sattva guna in this day and age is even more crucial. It requires great tapas to switch off the phone or keep it away from me. And this is, some habit that one has to develop through practice. So here he says you're bombarded by this gunas, sattva guna, rajas. Suddenly the mind becomes so active. You don't know why. You can't stop thinking one thought after another, one thought after another. And nothing wrong with it. Then you recognize rajas in prakriti, rajas in the nature, rajas also created in you because of your karma. Somehow Bhagavan has triggered rajas in you. That guna has overtaken ahankara, and that I becomes highly active, identifying with all different thoughts, right? So when the I becomes active, identifying with all different thoughts, then sometimes you have to act it out. So that's why people become highly active. Some people can't sit still. They will have to, keep doing something or other. When rajas is there, eventually, if you keep doing, what happens to the body? Becomes tired. You can't, how long can you keep doing? So when rajas comes to an extreme, then tamas takes over. So when tamas takes over, you just collapse on the sofa. My God, I can't even do anything anymore, right? Mind also becomes tired, physical body becomes tired, and you have to sleep. So rajas, you cannot enter the gunas. This is also interesting. You can't go from sattva to tamas. You can only go, rajas is the bridge, through sattva to tamas. You can go from tamas to rajas to sattva, or sattva to rajas to tamas, but you can't go from sattva to tamas and tamas to sattva. So it is always the rajas is the bridge. So suppose you're highly tamasic, you feel, a lot of this lethargy, lot of indifference, apathy to life. You don't feel like doing anything. Then people who have that type of mind, nothing wrong. We're just saying, but you want to increase sattva guna. How do you do it? You can't go straight to sattva. You cannot meditate in that state. That's why when you prescribe meditation to depressed people, it won't work. right? We cannot do that because you can't go from tamas to sattva. You have to go through rajas. So when people are very highly tamasic, or they feel, what do we, and even science has discovered this, what do we prescribe them? Exercise. Do some walking, do some exercise, because you have to increase your rajas. When you increase rajoguna, for tamasic people to get into rajas first, prescribe some activity. Activity is the best thing to get into. Then when you become a bit more practice, coming out of that tamas, that state, do become more active. And sometimes you have to will yourself to become active. That's the difficulty for people with high tamas buildup. You have to, your free will has to be extremely strong. You have to push yourself. And you can, really, literally, even if the mind resists, keep pushing. No, I'm going to the gym. I'm going to go for a jog. I'm going to do something active. I have to get active because I increase. Then when you do it as a habit forms, then you can bring yourself out of this tamas, which has overtaken the ahankara. And once the rajas, increase the rajoguna in you, then you can develop sattva guna. So only through rajas we can develop sattva. Okay. So this is very interesting to see the gunas. This is what he's saying. In the waking state, we are under the influence of these three gunas as human beings. We cannot avoid. Sattvadi guna yogena. You have to go through, and he says, Chavastha trayamashnute. It is this egoic individual, ahankara, that assumes the three different states of experience. It is this ahankara, the ego, that goes through waking state, that goes through dream state, that goes through sleep, that goes to sleep. It is not ātmā. So that is why you have to see your I thought is what wakes up in the morning. Atma doesn't wake up. Atma doesn't sleep. Atma's there always. What wakes up in the morning? When your alarm clock rings, it goes off. What wakes up first? I thought wakes up. Look at that. It is your prarabdha waking you up, your karma. A day of karma you have to face. If your karma finishes in that night itself, then you won't wake up. The I thought won't wake up. The I thought will go on to another body. It will say bye-bye, travel to another form. But alarm clock doesn't wake you. I thought wakes you up. Alarm clock is as though nimitta to wake up the I, but it is your karma actually waking you up. First thing to wake up in the morning is I, the sense of I. If I doesn't wake up, the rest of the body can't wake up. So notice this. I wakes up. Then what wakes up? Then slowly thoughts start coming in the mind. Slowly, that I thought starts identifying with the thoughts. You remember the problems of the day before, right? Usually it's the problems that recalled first thing in the morning. I wake up, oh, I didn't get toilet rolls yesterday from Tesco's. I have to go. And today, I don't know why that's coming in my mind, but that's so all of this comes. It's a big problem. I don't have any toilet rolls in the home today, so I have to get it today. First thing you wake up, I wakes up and identifies with this, right? Then what happens? Third thing to wake up is physical body. Physical body is last thing. By the time you start moving, so there's a difference between I thought waking up and the physical body getting up. There's a gap between that. Very rarely does I thought jump up and then physical body also get up, right? Usually it's a slow process. So you will observe in the morning how this happens. Here he says, this is the I thought that goes through the experience. I thought wakes, then fully rajas takes over after whatever time you brush your teeth, have your bath. I hope you have a bath. Hope you brush your teeth. Then we go into work mode, right? Ready for the office. Rajas, totally rajas from what? 9 to 5 or whatever we say, 9 to 5 job. So you're in rajas. 5 o'clock you come back. Slowly tamas starts taking over. Then what happens? I goes to sleep. I is dormant. The I is what goes to sleep at night. Atma is there throughout all the three states, watching all the three states. Then I goes to sleep. I goes to sleep, then suddenly dream all the things you experienced in the, suppose you had a very tough, very happy day. You could have a happy day or a tough day, but something happened in the waking state and you dream about it in the dream state. So then you create a different I, but it is that I that alone goes through the states. So he says here, Atma is untouched by that I. I is the one that goes through the states. You do not. You are Atma. You are untouched by that I. I is a role you play. And this is what Vedanta, more and more, Shravanam, you do. You recognize that I am not that I. I am much more than that I. I am untouched by the I. It is a role that I play. It is the I that goes through all the states. I am unaffected, uninvolved by the three states of experience. So, with that, he begins another topic now, which we will see after next week, because next week I want to do a Q&A session. As I've said, you can send your questions in. We have a few questions already. But the topics that we have seen so far, Sukshma Sharira, I mean, all these kāraṇaśarīrā, the three Shariras, three avasthas, three states of experience, and anything else you feel you want more clarity on, you can send your questions in and we will have a more informal kind of session next week before we enter into another prakriya meaning methodology, which is called panchakoshas, 5 sheets. So 5 sheets also we have to understand, and this panchakosha is very much in Taittiriya Upanishad. It comes in a Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad. So you will understand Taittiriya Upanishad after having understood this Tattvabodha as a grounding. That's why this Vivekacūḍāmaṇi and Tattvabodha become very important texts to study at the beginning before entering Upanishad, because that will become clearer to you once you've got the basic grounding in all of these methodologies. So we're going to see Panchakosha after the Q&A next week. So Hari Om to all of you. And please do think about these things through the week. Try and, see how this helps you in your life. It should help, That's the reason why this is being taught. Because you should get that distance between the you that you think you are and the you that you really are. And when you wake up in the morning, see, oh, I thought is waking up. You can do it as a practice. I am the witness of that I thought. All the problems when the I thought starts claiming all the other thoughts, you can slowly distance yourself from those other thoughts and don't make it a reality. Don't make it absolutely real. It is only a dream reality, even the waking state. Okay. So it's very interesting to practice that. You will find yourself becoming more and more free inside with this knowledge. Hari Om. Om. Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Hari Om. Namaste. Good week. See you next week.